of iniquity broke, and he started weeping. When the lady left, he knelt down, confessed, and was rededicated. Prayer created another algorithm, a counter programming that diffused what the devil planned, because the devil had everything in place. But when men pray, oh my God, when men pray, the power to shut darkness is activated. Sometimes you will be helpless, but prayer will help you. I was in a club, a pastor. I had the destiny of an apostle, but before I entered my calling, the devil had a program and manipulated my way into the club. And when I stood in the club, I had taken a bottle of Baron de Val, and I heard from the wall, the wages of sin is death. What gave the wall the power to speak was the prayer of my mother. He said, this one will serve you. Not one hair from his head will fall to the ground. So because of that prayer, even when I wanted to go the way of iniquity, I couldn't anymore, because I was a burnt offering. The one who had legitimate authority over me burnt me on the altar as a sacrifice to God. And so when I thought I was wise, when demons began to manipulate my prophetic radar, they couldn't take me too far, because those prayers, they can make stones to talk. They can make walls to talk. If men who rise to help you, even inanimate objects will suddenly come alive to save you, because prayer is the sword, the power that saves men. Anywhere prayer is withdrawn, anywhere priesthood is withdrawn, a people are about to perish. When Hannah said there was none holy as the Lord, she knew what she was saying. There's an intelligence locked in God to bring creation under government that the devil can never know, and that intelligence is quickened when prayer is at work. And so individuals are saved by prayer. Some of you who are serving God here, you think it's because you are wise. No. Some of you, your parents were even godless, but they were intercessors of Kenya 15 years ago that said, Lord, in the days when you visit Africa, remember Kenya. We don't know when you will come, but when you choose to visit Africa, remember Kenya. And because of their prayers, you were numbered. Hope you know that we are saved today because Abraham saw us. He said, Abraham your father saw my day and he rejoiced in it. Intercessors begat us on the altar. That's why today you were just going to watch football and somebody told you an evangelist is coming, and you entered there, you heard the gospel and repented. You think it just happened like that? No, that was a program. Your steps has been manipulated. How you met that boy, how you were invited, how you accepted, how you came to the altar call, all of that were the tears of the intercessors. Because when the intercessors were crying, they were not just crying, they were burning. You see, as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. You are the offspring of the intercessors of ages past. And so when a nation is about to be saved, intercessors must rise. And the first kind of deliverance that prayer engenders are individual deliverances. The second kind of deliverance that prayer engenders are territorial deliverances. Demons move men of power. They don't just only control people, they control people who control systems. In 2 Chronicles chapter 21 verse 1, the Bible said, and Satan moved David to number Israel. 1 Chronicles 21 verse 1, it says Satan moved David. The moment a man ascends a throne, the princes become interested in him, because they know that that one is a possessor of a scepter. You see, and Satan stood up against Israel, but the way he will deal with Israel is not by going for Israel, it's by going for the one on the throne. And he said he provoked David to number Israel because he knew it was a sin against God. The moment David numbered Israel, Israel became a victim. This is why we must pray, and pray for those in authority. Paul was speaking in 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 1. He said, I exhort above all that men will lift up their hands everywhere and pray. And he said prayers and supplication and intercession should be made for those in authority. Believers are not taught, so they end up online attacking their presidents and senators and governors. You will attack them, they will not even care, because they don't know what they are doing. They are manipulated by the princes that watch over those thrones. And if you want the nation to go in the direction that it should go, you must also become a watcher over those thrones. Because princes are not only interested in people, they are also interested in territories. And the way they go for territories is by going for the people that carry the scepter. The moment you come into power, you come into warfare. Because they will come for you, not because of you, but because of what you represent in your generation. There are certain battles that you will fight as an individual, but there are certain other battles you will fight because you become a leader. That's why when you find people going through issues, don't be quick to conclude. You don't know their wars. You don't know their battles. There are certain princes that are only equipped to fight presidents. The weapon they have is too much to go look for an individual. So they are equipped only to fight presidents. And there are certain demons that are equipped not just to fight every president, but to fight presidents of nations that have influence over other nations. This is why intercessors have ranks. Because there is a level you are in intercession that you will pray for people. There's a level you are in intercession that you will pray for families. There's another level you get to in intercession, you pray for nations. Samuel said, I will not sin against you by not praying for you. Because the hope of Israel was in the hand of Samuel. Whether Israel will fulfill her prophetic destiny is dependent on Samuel's intercession. And the man knew. Because princes also go for rulers. Did you not read in Babylon? Nebuchadnezzar was a puppet of the prince of Persia. And so when Samuel did all the negotiation and it will not work, Samuel had to go back to the altar. Nations will be in jeopardy until priests arise. It is the priesthood of the altar that brings deliverance to nation. There's no nation serving God that is serving God because they are wise. Every nation where they are serving God and the name of God is hallowed is so because they are priests that have laid between the altar and the pouches, and they will not turn back until the God of Israel reveals himself. The Bible said in 1 Samuel chapter 12 from verse 6, when the Philistines, when the Midianite rose up against Israel, he says Samuel, he didn't raise an army. He didn't go to consult with the technocrats. You know, many times the church lost her place. When there is crisis, the church thinks the solution comes from the government house. The government house is manipulated. You create change in the government house from the altar. We look up to economic giants. They are manipulated. Have you not seen some of them that came out recently and said they are happy to go to hell? Have you not heard some of them that said the solution to the world is to kill 1/3 of the world's population, and the best place to start killing from is Africa? And those are the people you are looking for to come and save us. The people that believe that Africa is a dumping ground and that Africans are consumers, and if the world will improve, they should kill Africans. Those are the people we look up to. No. The reason they talk like that is because spirits manipulate them. How can you assume the way to solve the problem of humanity is to kill humanity? How can genocide becomes the cure to human affliction, except as the spirit of destruction, Abaddon, is ruling over that person, and you think that that person is just wealthy because he's a business technocrat? No, he's empowered by his spirit, and now that he has authority, he can kill and he can destroy because he has become an apostle of that spirit. And so when we want to create change in society, our altar must come alive. And Samuel knew, so he didn't run to the king. He didn't run to the army. In fact, in the olden times, when kings are in trouble, they look for prophets. But today, prophets are running after kings, because what prophets are looking for are cars. In the days of old, when a prophet enters a palace, he's coming with the word of the Lord. A young prophet entered the palace of Jeroboam, and he looked at him and he said, the hand of God is against you. You have erred against the God of heaven, you will die. And the king stretched his hand, and the hand paralyzed. Because touch not the Lord's anointed, do his prophets no harm. Today they can touch us because we are not on the altar. We are pursuing the same thing that the heathens are pursuing. We are pursuing the same glamour that the world is pursuing. Our altars are desolate. There are many people with scepters that should save nations, but the altar is empty. They are talking in the public and the altar is calling them, come back. Your throne is not in the government house. Your throne is on the altar. When Nebuchadnezzar wanted to make Daniel a governor, he said, no, don't make me. You can make others. I will sit at the gate. My throne is not in the government. My throne is at the gate. I change things from here. And the Bible says Samuel took a stone, he planted it, poured oil on it, and called it Ebenezer. And the Bible says from that day, the hand of God was against the Philistines. Where are the men who know spiritual things? Where are the wise men of our generation? Where are the spiritual technocrats of our generation? This is why I cry on the altar. We can't preach like every other person. When a nation is bleeding, where are those who can stand and say, Lord, restore? Where are those who know what they should do to bring a nation to the feet of the cross? When Archbishop Benson Idahosa wanted to change the fortune of Benin City, the Lord gave him strange instructions. He said, at night, go around the city and go to a roundabout and pray there. When he did it for some days, the signal of what he was doing began to enter the cove. He wasn't talking to anybody. He was walking in the night to a roundabout to pray and prophesy. After 3 days, they picked the signal in the demonic cove. And the next time he came, he saw a pot and they butchered some strange meat that he doesn't know which animal it came from. They came to set a trap ahead of him, because they know what this man is doing is offsetting the balance. That means what is happening in the city, there is also a demonic watcher watching the program in the spirit. And so they are not moved. No matter the reforms you bring, they are not moved. They are only moved if somebody through priesthood is beginning to affect the program. Because the reason every young lady wants to be naked, even they don't know. The reason every government official wants to loot money and go to Dubai, even they don't know. It's a program. And so no matter the advice you give, it won't work until you go back to the foundation where those negative programs were written, and you begin to change it. If you start changing it, they will visit you. That's when you will know that you are doing business in the spirit. You are not doing business because you have a church and you are preaching. You are doing business because the spirit are aware of your activity. And the only activity the spirit are aware of are the activities on the altar. Ebenezer! And suddenly, the hand of God appeared. And the whole army moved back. Even the land that they took from Israel were retrieved. We cannot take the media until priests arise. We cannot take the government until priests arise. We cannot take the economy until priests arise. There are those from among us that God will send there, but the reason they will be effective is because we are praying. 4 years ago, the Lord told me, he said, I'm raising 3 categories of men. He said, some of them are apostolic missionaries. He said, that's where I'm putting you. You will travel around the nations and you will preach the gospel of the kingdom. He said, but be mindful to know that what God is doing has a triangle, is a triangle. He said, there are those that will never be known. But the reason you will be effective on the field is because they will be effective on the altar. Because the reason the church in Colossus will succeed is because Epaphras is praying. If Epaphras stop praying, the church in Colossus will die. He says, so while you are traveling, you need to be aware that there are intercessors who are praying. The same way you have burdens to take nations for God by traveling to those nations. He said that's how others will have burdens to take nations on their altar. And so he said, be careful only to go to where I send you, because where I send you is where the intercessors have conquered. So we don't go to nations because the door opened. We go to nations because we are sent. Because if you go where an intercessor has not covered, you will be in trouble. Because this thing is partnership and synergy in the spirit. And the Lord also told me, don't venture into any phase or any project until I tell you. Because the projects that you are supposed to carry out, you won't pay for it. He said there are sons of consolation that I'm raising. Their own burden is to sponsor the kingdom. So if I go to a nation that God has not sent me to, I will be a victim. It means prayer has not covered that nation. And if I don't have enough authority to survive, I may die there. And so even though doors open, I will consult with God to find out which nation He's sending me to. I started having invitations to America from 2017. There are many nations that they paid flight, paid for hotel location. Since 2018, I've not gone. Because God said, go only to the nations that I send you to. Because those who are praying for your kind of calling, they have to first of all take that nation in prayer before you can manifest in that nation. The Lord also told me, don't start a project until I tell you. Don't be creative. The only projects you can execute are the ones I tell you. Because when I tell you, the people who should sponsor it, I've already spoken to them. Because there are three quadrants. There are those who are praying, who will never be known. There are those who are all over the place, who are speaking for God. And there are those who are sponsoring with their finances. God will exalt their horn and give them wisdom for wealth creation. But the reason is because there is a kingdom to sponsor. And so their burden is to find genuine men and genuine kingdom projects and sponsor it. And there are others who will be on the altar. Nobody will know them. When a popular apostle comes here, you want to give him a seed and have him impart you. But there are many sitting here that have more stature than me preaching to you. But their place is behind the altar. Nobody will know them. It's in heaven that they are honored. But it's for the program of God to find expression. You will be greatly mistaken when you think the man who is traveling from nation to nation, or the man who gathers 10,000 people, is the real mighty man. No, that man is the one showcasing what the intercessor and the financiers are doing. The people who are doing the real work are the intercessors and the financiers. If the financiers stop, the screen will vanish. If the financiers stop, the rolling headlight will vanish. If the financiers stop, the television station will close down. The reason you find the excellence is because somebody is paying. And if the intercessors stop, the miracles will stop. If the intercessors stop, the souls will stop. Because the hearts of men are not pricked because you preach an intelligent message. The hearts of men are pricked because the Holy Ghost is working on them. And those who mobilize the Holy Spirit are those who are on the altar. It's a technology for taking systems. And in the same vein, there are certain intercessors that pray for nations. There are certain intercessors that pray for leaders. And so the reason a nation will do well is because the quorum of intercession for that nation is complete. I tell you, Kenya will struggle until the quorum of intercessors are complete for Kenya. No matter the apostles that come, it is the intercessors that opens the heaven over a nation. There are many people in Kenya today that God has apportioned to pray for Canada. And so they may be Kenyans, but the destiny of Canada is with them. And there are many people in Ghana that God has put a body to pray for Kenya. Because this is a mystery. It's a mystery. So that divine programs can find expression. There will be no legislation until priesthood is fully established. There are systems that need 1,000 intercessors to pray for until the glory descend, for that system to be conquered. You may be there preaching for 5 years, nothing is happening. Don't be discouraged. The quorum is still growing. The day that quorum is complete, you will just say Jesus and the glory of God will fall. So don't be discouraged. We are in different quadrants. We have different ranks and there are different quorums. There are nations that will never turn to the Lord until the quorum of intercessors are complete. And so if God told you to pray for Kenya, this is not the time to back down. Maybe Kenya needs 100 intercessors and you are the 98th recruit. Maybe there are remaining just 2. And so when the devil knows that the recruitment is almost complete, he begins to discourage those who have been praying. Maybe God started the recruitment 10 years ago. Imagine out of 100, the first person God recruited, who has prayed for Kenya for 10 years. And maybe the visitation of Kenya is January 2023. Because in January 2023, the 100th recruit will come. And then suddenly the devil will go and tell the first recruit 10 years ago, you have prayed for 10 years, nothing has happened. Won't you rest? Because the devil understands spiritual intelligence. Because if that person comes out What you make 100 will go back to 99. But it's a technology. It's a technology that systems are manipulated by spirits. And the first way to take over a system is not by sending technocrats, it's by raising priests who can bet that system in the spirit. When a system is bet in the spirit, even those who are not too experienced can take over that system. But if a system has not been bettered in the spirit, no matter the labor you put in, nothing will change. This is why the intercessors are the most significant part of our ranks. The intercessor is more relevant than the apostle. The intercessor is more relevant than the evangelist, because the efficacy of the operations of the apostle and the evangelist is dependent on the efficacy of the job of the intercessor. In fact, your evangelical authority and apostolic horn will not be strong until yourself become an intercessor. Men are not aware of this. They think it's when in their family 3 doctors emerge that the family will have rest. And then they have 7 doctors now. Nothing is changing. Because you don't need a doctor to change a family. You need a God to change a family. And the way you walk with that God is through priesthood. Many are thinking until the president comes from a particular part of the country or a tribe that things will change. You don't need a particular tribe to change a nation. You need God to change a nation. And the way that God works is when men are on the altar calling upon his name. This is how spiritual legislations take place. Israel was in captivity in Egypt for 430 years. Nothing happened until a man who met God showed up. We now realize you don't need number. You need people who have met God. Sometimes God can apportion a quorum, but by all means, men must meet God. Israel was in captivity for 70 years in Babylon until a man began to pray. He said, I, Daniel, I understood by books that the year of captivity of Israel was 70 according to the writings of Jeremiah the prophet. He said, when I knew it, I did not take any pleasant bread. I prayed for 21 days. While he was praying, Gabriel and Michael were mobilized. Without intercession, everything we are doing is in the flesh. And no spirit is impressed, no matter how intelligent you are. They know more than you can ever know. What disarms spirits are the kinds of fraternity you form and the spirits that stand for you against the spirit that are against you. And so the second thing intercession does is to deliver systems and territories that are regulated by spirits. The media is regulated by spirits. The government is regulated by spirits. The economy is regulated by spirits. If you want only the Spirit of God to find expression, you must raise an altar for those systems. That altar is what manipulates those systems in the favor of the righteous. And so first, intercessions deliver people. Simon, Simon, Satan desires to have you, to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith faileth not. When thou art recovered, strengthen thy brethren. Secondly, intercession delivers systems and nations. He said, Epaphras is one of you, a born servant of Christ, laboring fervently for you in prayers, that you may stand perfect and complete in all the will of God. That's the whole church in Colossus that one man was sustaining in prayer. Daniel prayed for Israel in Babylon, and he engendered deliverance. And then thirdly, what this kind of intercession does is that it brings us superior intelligence to recolonize our world. Even if the demons are checked out, the level of destructions they've caused will require kingdom technocrats to change it. And so this is the third thing that happened. When the intercessors perfect their jobs, then God begins to alight upon people that is sent to different territories. And these kinds of people must come with superior intelligence. That intelligence is what will engender deliverance. When Joseph showed up before Pharaoh, when he was done talking, he said, let the king look for a man that is desperate in knowledge. And he began to tell the king what he needs to do. He said, let one fifth of anything produced in the year of abundance stored for the year of famine. That kind of wisdom is not in a book, because the world had not experienced national famine before. They've never experienced global famine before. So you will need a knowledge that is beyond every documented literature to be able to bring deliverance. And a man that was born from the womb of the Spirit showed up, and he told Pharaoh what was to come, and he told Pharaoh what to do to avert what was to come. And so Joseph as one man saved the whole world from famine. It's called superior intelligence. When the king was stranded, in Daniel chapter 5 from verse 11, he said, there's a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods. He said, light and understanding is in this man, and he has the ability to explain hard sentences. Listen, when we speak about legislation, it doesn't end with prayer. It ends with what prayer can produce. And one of the things prayer produces is wisdom that cannot be gainsaid. One of the things prayer produces is open doors that strategically position men to create change. There are some of us here that will need doors to open into government for us. There are some of us here that need a wisdom to make a difference in the government. And so when intercession is perfected, intercession must end by opening that door for you and by giving you the kind of wisdom that you need in order to create that change. And so when priests are born, priests orchestrate administration of graces. Graces that bring men into corridors of wisdom and knowledge that cannot be bought or studied, but knowledge that is revealed. It is that kind of knowledge that we need to change our world. When you see the confusion in the governments of the world, do you think you can apply just the principle you picked from Harvard to change it? Even the Western world are confused. There are nations where past presidents spent all the money in that nation, entered into programs that has indebted that nation for more than 50 years. What will you come to do in 4 years to change that level of indebtedness? You will need a wisdom that is superlative, because the country you came into to head is already sold out. You will need a kind of wisdom that is not of this world. You will need a wisdom that is out of this world. There are institutions that have been perverted. Have you gone to the academia? Students sleeping with lecturers, lecturers forcing students to sleep with them in order to give them grades. What will you do to recover such an institution? You need a wisdom that can bring that institution under kingdom surveillance so that the will of God can find expression. Have you gone into the economic sector? Values of currency depreciating as though a metal is falling from an elevated platform. Investments that worth 2 billion 5 years ago, now worth only 10 million. An investment that is supposed to appreciate, because currency value has depreciated, the whole investment has depreciated. What can you do to salvage that kind of situation? You will need a wisdom. And so the third thing priesthood does is to fortify us with wisdom, fortify us with grace that can turn rotten situation into prospects that carry the ability to save and to bring hope to a generation. This is why when priesthood is going on, people are not just praying, people are not just knowing God, people are being fortified. Because out of the prison, a Joseph must rise. Out of Babylon, a Daniel must rise. Out of Egypt, a Moses must rise. But it will take intercession. And some of you looking at me here today, you may just become the Daniel of Kenya. You may just become the Joseph of Kenya. You may just become the Moses of Kenya. This is why we will not stop praying, because it doesn't look like it yet, but we know that our Redeemer liveth. He said, I stand upon the rock to see what he will say to me. And he said, write the vision. He said, make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. He said, do it tarries. He said, wait for it. It shall not tarry. It shall surely come to pass. I don't know what God has destined you for, but I came to speak to you tonight in the spirit and in the power of Moses, the one that brings people out of the pit. And I come to speak to you in the spirit of Joshua, the one that carries men to their promised land. Whatever it is that God has planted in you, whatever grace, whatever ordination, as I speak now by the Spirit, the hand of God is upon you to awaken you to that ordination.